How did you feel knowing that nothing common is allowed in the tabernacle? No common oil, no common incense, no common utensils, no common fabrics, no common behavior is allowed in the tabernacle. Oh, no, no, no. How is your behavior? Is it common? Was that a blowout last episode to learn about what is common and what is set apart? Because Yahusha is set apart from all that common thing. Is he set apart from you, or are you set apart unto him from all the common things? Common. What is common? Let's look at that word, common. Because we're not supposed to be common. It doesn't say evil, does it? There's a difference. There's a difference. There's nothing wrong with the common utensils or the common fabrics or the common incense or the common oils for cooking and all that. Nothing wrong with the common things. But Yahusha's not talking about that. He's talking about what's of royal, set apart from all that common stuff. Let's look at the word common. It's an adjective. Common adjective. Common is occurring, found, or done, prevalent. Ordinary, customary. Let's go further. Animals, plants, widespread, typical species. That's not what we want, is it? Ordinary qualities without special rank or position. It's just common. What are we looking for? Belonging to no. Showing lack of taste and refinement, supposedly typical of the lower classes. Vulgar, so vulgar. Uncouth, vulgar, coarse and rough, unsavory, boorish. Oh look, there's more. Let's go further. Oh, give me more, come on, give me more. Rude, here we go, rude, impolite, ill-mannered, unladylike, ungentlemanly, ill-bred, uncivilized, unsophisticated, unrefined youth, Philistine, primitive, savage, brutish, oafish, gross, lowly, low-born, low-ranking. You low-class, inferior, humble, ignoramus, proletarian, plebeian, plebby, slobbish, cloddish, clodhoppy, common as muck, base-born. And what's the opposite? Refined and noble, or set apart. Can you see that Yahusha wants his bride to be set apart from all this vulgar, coarse, rough, unsavory, boorish uncouthness? It's all about behaviour, isn't it? Let's call a spade, isn't it all about behaviour? How is your behaviour? Is it like Yahusha's bride? Or is it like a whore? Uncouth, unsophisticated, unladylike, rough, unsavoury, boorish, yelling like a fishmonger's wife through the marketplace, with no class, no refinement. What do you think? Does this give you some understanding? Because we're talking about the tabernacle still, and what's to be set apart, because we're coming into the most set apart thing he ever gave his bride, and that's a day, a whole 24-hour day. Let's get out of this one. Instructions for the Shabath, a set apart day. Does this give you more understanding? Oh yes, the Shabath is a set apart day, so we've got to do it. No, that's what we've always been doing. Even back when we were in religion, it's a holy day, we've got to do it. It's not about that at all. It's a set apart day, and if we do it, we become wrapped up in the set apartness. We become anointed and enveloped in this set apart thing that's going on. This set apart time and space. Space, which is the vessel, and time, which is the 24-hour day. If we line up, if the stars align, no, that's pagan. No, if we've got this align the time and the space at the right time and the right space on the right day, and we do it, the anointing envelopes us. We feel it, we become set apart. It's not about, oh, it's a set apart day, so we've got to do it. No, if you do it, you become set apart. You become separated from the common, all the common other days. And look at all the common folk out there, mowing their lawns and shopping and scurrying around like chooks without heads on the set apart day. On this royal set apart day. The day that Yahushua rested from his creation, and they're all out there treating it like it's common. Just another common day. Saturday's the day I'll clean my house. You know, like common. Oh, are you common or are you set apart? Be set apart as I am set apart, Yahushua says. Let's look at the instructions for the Shabath. If we do these instructions, and see, I'm not reading this through, I know I've read through a lot of the feasts and saying that's a behavior, you don't have to do that, that's a behavior, that's a shadow, that's a behavior, now just do the behavior. The Shabath was already a behavior, so we don't have to read that through any other context. The Shabath day, the fourth commandment, the fourth instruction given to Moshe on Sinai was all about the Shabath, and now he's going into it further. Tell the children of Israel to be careful to keep my Shabath day. For the Shabath is a sign of the eternal blood covenant of deliverance between me and you from generation to generation. Generation to generation. The 7-day cycle from generation to generation, and it hasn't stopped. It is given so you may know that I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am setting you apart. Setting you all apart. You must keep the Shabath day and guard it, for it is a set apart day for you. Set apart day for you. Even Yahushua said that. The Shabath day was made for mankind. Oh, well, if it's made for us, we can do what we want. Pick a day, any day. We can do what we want on the Shabath day. It's our day. No, it's not. He's the master of it. And he gave the Shabath day is for mankind, he said. It's for them so they can become set apart. It's allowing them to become set apart. In joining, co-sharers in the set apartness. Come and join me in the set apart place at the set apart time. Because that's where he is, you know. So, you must keep the Shabath day and guard it, for it is a set apart day for you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death. That's pretty important. That's up there with murdering and all these sort of things. Anyone who profanes it, disobeys, shall certainly be put to death. For anyone who does work on it, that being shall be cut off. Why? Because work is what you do the other 6 days of it. That's the common behaviour we have to do every day. This is a set apart day. You don't do common things on the set apart day. You do separate, special, set apart things on the set apart day. So anyone working on it shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days your work is done, and on the 7th is a Shabath of rest, set apart to me. Rest, that is the behaviour we're gleaning from this, rest. If it's not rest, you are profaning the Shabath day, violating the Shabath day. Rest doesn't just mean your paid work, it means any kind of work, you know? Rest your mind and rest your body, rest your carcass. Everyone doing work on the Shabath day shall certainly be put to death. It is vital that the children of Israel keep the Shabath day by observing it from generation to generation, for it is an everlasting sign of my eternal blood covenant. A sign. If you're doing the Shabath day, it is a sign of the covenant that you are in. Are you common, living like the common folk, in common agreements and covenants with one another? Or are you in a set apart blood covenant. Because if you are, your behaviour will show, and this will show as well. Now, it may not be a sign to many people out there if you haven't told them or they haven't asked, but it's an outward sign to Yahusha, and it's an outward sign to your immediate family and probably most of your family, because most of us tell our families when we come out, and they all think we're freaks. But the point is, it's a sign. Whether they like it or not, it's a sign. Of my eternal blood covenant with the people of Israel, for in 6 days I made the universe and everything in it. And on the 7th day I stopped working and was refreshed. It's good enough for him. He didn't need to rest. He doesn't even have a body. He does now, but he doesn't need to rest. But he did, to be a good example to us, to show us that he rested, so we rest too. And it goes deeper than that. We are actually acknowledging the creation when we rest, because we're acknowledging that there was a creation and a creator who rested after 6 days. So we do the same thing. We rest. We work for 6 days and rest on the 7th. In 6 days I made the universe and everything in it, and on the 7th day I stopped working and was refreshed. Anyone who works on that day must be put to death, and you must not even light a fire in any of your homes on the Shabath. Fires were required for all daily duties in this era. Now, I've been in movements where we don't light fires. That would mean anything with a flame. We don't light gas stoves, gas bottles, gas barbecues, anything like that. I don't believe that anymore, because I think that's religious. I think that it's implying back then that you couldn't really do anything in the wilderness without a fire. You couldn't cook, you couldn't heat up water, you couldn't clean your clothes really, heated water. You could, everything that was done back in the wilderness, any work that was done, it needed a fire. Today, we just push buttons. Most of our chores and jobs within the home involves pushing buttons. Washing clothes, we push a button. Turn on the microwave, we push a button. Turn on the stove, we push a button. Whether it's electric or gas, you push a button. That's not work. Now, it does imply that we should have put some thought into our day, planned our meals ahead, so that the amount of work we need to do is very limited. And if you're by yourself, you don't need to do any work. But having said that, I have 8 children in my home, so the amount of cleanliness, the amount of work required to maintain cleanliness is just common sense. You don't just leave all your dishes piled up in the sink. Such and such, you can put the dishes in the sink. Such and such, you can now clean up under the placemats, just keep the place tidy, common sense. And then everyone just can rest the whole day. So while I'm not agreeing with the whole lighting fires thing, because I think that's got nothing to do with work in this 21st century era, the commandment is rest. So you rest, all right? Rest your mind, rest your body. I'm not going to go on about that. And when Yahusha finished speaking with Moshe on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 stone tablets of the blood covenant witness, marriage ketubah, written with his own finger. Did you realize we're still here? Moshe's gone up the mountain to receive the blood covenant, the 10 commandments, the marriage ketubah. We're still there. It's been, 4 episodes now? Maybe 5. Since we've been talking about this. All these episodes, Moshe's still up on the mountain, receiving. So he didn't just go up there to receive the 10 commandments and we stick them on our back of our toilet door and, writes them on our hearts. There's much more than that. I mean, that's the essence of the eternal covenant, everlasting blood covenant. There were 10 main words to it. But look at all the other details he's going into, so that nothing was left to the imagination. So we couldn't stand and say, well, you didn't explain it properly. He's gone on and on and on and on, explaining how to be set apart in your behaviour. So in the 21st century, I believe it's about behaviour. If it's not speaking to your behaviour, I believe it's customary, cultural, and can be left where it was. Thank you very much. Because in the 21st century, it's not about the garments, it's not about the fires, it's not about the customary things. It's about behaviour, because behaviour is the one constant. Behaviour is the one constant through time. It doesn't change. No matter what the people are wearing or what their haircuts look like or what their breath smells like, or what the brand of shoes they're wearing, no matter what culinary cuisine they're eating, no matter what happens through time, behaviours do not change. It's either the fruit of the Ruach, 9 fruits, or it's all the fruits of the world, all those hideous behaviours. It's about behaviour. So if you're reading scripture and gleaning things that aren't about behaviour, I think you're wasting your time myself. That's why these scriptures are aimed at behaviour, and it can be for children right up to pensioners, mate, any age, because it's all about behaviour. So here's Musha, the 10 words on the stone tablets, which were written in Paleo Hebrew, not bastardized modern Babylonian Hebrew, squiggly Hebrew. It's the ancient Paleo script. Through the tabernacle and the Shabath, Yahushua, this was fascinating, guys. I've touched on this in many times, but let's go into it. Through the tabernacle and the Shabath, tabernacle and Shabath, Yahushua is gaining ground in taking back the 4 dimensions of his creation. What are the 4 dimensions of his creation? Time and space. The tabernacle separates the 3 dimensions of space. Space is height, length, and width. That's 3. 1 dimension, 2 dimension. Like a cube. That's space. Height, depth, breadth, length. That's space. So the tabernacle separates the 3 dimensions of space on whatever ground it sat on. And the Shabath separates the dimension of time from any other block of time for the whole 7th day. Yahushua can't dwell where there is evil, and now he had restored and set apart a portion of his creation so that he could dwell on earth in his time and space. So it may not have been a big space, but wherever that tabernacle sat, on the ground that tabernacle sat on, was his set apart place, because the only way it could be set apart was to be sprinkled with the blood, anointed with the oil. The right people wearing the right clothes who had set up the area the right way according to his instructions, which were set apart as well. His instructions are set apart, his voice is set apart, his ruach, the oil, the blood, everything had to be set up so that square, however many square meters it was, on the ground, wherever that tabernacle sat, was his set apart place. And now he had introduced a set apart time as well. Time and space is creation. Creation only consists of time and space. And he may have only claimed back a little bit, wherever the tabernacle sat was his space. And then on the Shabath day, every 7th day, there would be that time. 24 hours was his time, because it was set apart. He'd written it on the ℕ𝗓𝗓𝗏. You know, he washed his bride clean, brought them through to the mountain, sprinkled them with blood. The ℕ𝗓𝗓𝗏, it was all official. The blood covenant was sealed. So time, Shabath day, official time and space. So let's go into that. Do you understand this? It's fascinating. Yahushua wants his earth back. He's now claimed back a portion of it. Through the tabernacle and the Shabath day, Yahushua is gaining ground in taking back the 4 dimensions of his creation, time and space. The tabernacle separated the 3 dimensions of space on whatever ground it sat on, and the Shabath separates the dimension of time from any other block of time for the whole 7th day. Yahushua can't dwell where there is evil, and now he had restored and set apart a portion of his creation so that he could dwell on earth in his time and space. So through the tabernacle and through the Shabath day, he had joined the dimensions. Isn't that phenomenal? The dimensions which were severed in the Garden of Eden through disobedient behaviour, now through obedient behaviour, animal sacrifice, anointing, oil, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all these things that happen, he's combined the dimensions so that he can come into the earth. Now, it wasn't his own perfect blood, his own perfect ruach, oil, etc., etc. So he could only come in a certain strength, intensity. His light could only be a certain intensity, but it was still enough to blow Musha's brains out, and he came down the mountain all glowing, you know. Put a veil over your face, you're too bright, I can't even look at you. You know, that's how they felt. So he could only come in a certain intensity, but we know in the 21st century, looking back, that on the day of Pentecost in the upper room, after his actual physical body had been rent and his essence came forth 50 days later, the day of Pentecost, Shabath, that he had now found a time and a place being our dwelling places, and the time being the Shabath day. So can you see how by doing the Shabath day correctly, resting, making it a set apart day, because it is, that we are actually feeling a double, triple, quadruple, 100th times anointing, because we are the set apart place, most set apart place, which has the ark of his presence in our heart. His anointing oil, his ruach is within us. So in that 24-hour period on the Shabath day, from sunset to sunset, we have the opportunity to feel an amazing rush of anointing if we're conscious to it and we know what we're doing, why we're doing it. We are doing it to set ourselves apart, to set this day apart and set this place apart. And I want to go further and say that if the Ruach is within us, he's not just in us 24 hours on the Shabath day. The Ruach lives within us all the time. So if we are overcoming and letting his light burn more and more and more of the darkness out of us, and we're choosing to overcome to please him, then I believe his anointing can be with us every day of the week. That's not taking away from the fact that there is a Shabath day, because that is a set apart time. But the set apart place remains us all the time. So grasp this, guys. This is phenomenal understanding. Time and space. Yahushua's taking back his creation. And now it's not just a silly little tent. It's these highly, I was going to say evolved, that's not a good word, is it? Highly created beings, you know, the design. Mankind may have figured out how to clone us, but they still can't put the essence, they can't put the life within the shell. That's why unclean spirits have to come in and do that. To sheep and goats and all sorts of weird, freaky things they're cloning these days. But anyway, our bodies, the space, which is the tabernacle, and the Shabath day, which is the time, sign of the everlasting blood covenant, and how we behave in and on them both is so important to Yahushua, because until the final shofar and destruction of all wickedness on this planet, the only time and space of his creation where he can dwell is in his obedient, overcoming, bridal people. Woohoo! You got that? Our bodies, which is the tabernacle, which is the space, and the Shabath day, which is a time, and also the sign of our everlasting blood covenant, the blood covenant, the blood that's washed the tabernacle, and how we behave in and on them both is so important to Yahushua, because until the final shofar and destruction of all wickedness on this planet, the only time and space of Yahushua's creation where he can dwell is in his obedient, overcoming bridal people. Time and space. So what's your tabernacle doing on the set apart day? Is it being set apart more and more and more and more? Or is it common? What are you doing on the Shabath day with your tabernacle? Common things or set apart things? Are you worshipping commonly with common, strange outside oil and common, strange outside incense and fabric and common swine and beef cattle, that are things that aren't supposed to be, are they outside, or they set the specific specifications and recipes and instructions and behaviours that we are called to be in this tabernacle on the Shabath day and every day actually. And down here in the bowl. So when we have the behaviour of rest, here we go. We're kicking this ball home now. When we have the behaviour of rest on the Shabath day, we are actually clothed with Yahushua's esteem. When we have the behaviour of rest on the Shabath day, we are actually clothed with Yahushua's esteem, anointed with oil, making us set apart from all other people on the planet. The same can be said for having the right obedient behaviour in our tabernacle every day of the week. The earthly dwelling place of Yahushua, looked after by his bridal priests. So we are the tabernacle, the earthly dwelling place of Yahushua, looked after by his set apart bridal priests, whose feet he washed as well, and whose vessels he anointed with his oil. This makes sense, guys? Can you join all the dots here? It's amazing. Can we have a few little side topics here which we're going to tie up? Interesting things. Why wasn't the marriage covenant raised up with Yisrael when they got into the promised land? Why didn't he take them to the promised land first and then marry them and set themselves up for failure almost? What was the point of that? Number one, because the bride and groom needed to be consummated before they entered the covenant house. They needed to be joined together before they entered the covenant house. So think about the ancient custom of the bride and the groom. Number two, so that the surrounding nations didn't have an excuse not to accept the covenant because it was formed in Yisrael's land, so it was only for them. Oh, that's Yisrael's covenant. It happened in their land, so it's only for Yisrael. No, this covenant was formed, this everlasting blood covenant was formed outside of Yisrael, in common on common ground. It was formed in a place, where anybody was welcome to join. And three, to avoid arguments within Israel, because if the covenant was raised up in a certain tribal territory, they would lift themselves up and claim fame and seniority. This way, the covenant was raised up on neutral ground, that's the word I was looking for, neutral ground, and for the whole world to accept and receive the blessings. No one tribe could claim they are more important in the covenant than the other, and no nations could claim that Israel's covenant, so it's only for Israel. No, this was out in the wilderness, in neutral territory, and it was available for everybody who would come and be grafted in and be obedient. So, we looked at this a few episodes ago, but it's very relevant now. These are the set apart zones. 1 was the most set apart place, 2 was the set apart place, and 3 was the outer court. As you can see on the mountain, the outer court, most of Israel were allowed in the outer court, the first part of it anyway, to offer sacrifices on the altar here. This big one here. But only the priests were allowed to go further. They had to be washed, put on their right garments, and go into the set apart place. Just like the 70 priests went up the mountain to have the wedding feast. And then of course only Moshe was allowed to go up to the most set apart place. And Aaron was allowed in there once a year. And that's the ordination day. Just remember, all these people had black skin. Please understand, these people had black skin. Not black skin, but they had dark skin, all right? Middle Eastern dark skin, all right? Because these were all from the line of Shem, and they had dark brown skin. So they weren't black. Yahushua wasn't black, for all those who keep saying Yahushua had black. No, he wasn't. No. Egyptians, the line of Ham, had black Negro skin. the line of Shem had dark brown skin, all right? Like what you'd see in the Middle East today. Brown skin, black hair, you know, dark brown to dark brown skin. But it wasn't black, it wasn't Negro skin. Sorry. Yahusha had dark skin, but it wasn't black. Adam and Hawa did though, very black. So the way to connect with Yahusha, this was interesting. Let's go, we'll start at number 1. So let's look at the life of the believer today. All of us, it's like looking at a map in the shopping centre. You are here, we are here, start here at the door. Who's the door? Start with. Yahusha is the door. How do you open the door? You need the key. Who's the key of all knowledge? Yahuwah, the name of Yahuwah. The Father, the key of knowledge is the name of Yahuwah. The key opens the door, doorway to deliverance. And this is the way to deliverance. You come next to the altar. Now let's go down here. Number 1, blood sacrifice. Yahusha's bride has repented of her lawless behaviour and been delivered by belief in the blood of the slain lamb. Belief does not just mean you believe it and that's it. Belief means I believe it and I will do it. I believe it and my behaviour will show what I believe. It's an action. It's a doing, a verb, a doing word. It's not just a, you know, I believe something and I hold it nicely in my mind and I believe it's a pretty word. No, you got to do it. After the blood sacrifice, a priest, which we all are, came to the water, brazen lava, water cleansing. Yahusha's bride has been immersed in his name and legally purified of her wickedness. I've explained this a few times now. They've come out of the water with a new heart, new inclination. Same fleshly vessel though, same bad habits, but your heart has changed. And if you do the same fleshly evil behaviours, your heart no longer feels the same way about it. You feel pain, not only because you've got a new inclination, a new inner man, a new heart, but because Yahusha flogs us. So, then we come to the doorway of the set apart place, the priestly garments. A process of behavioural training to make the bride useful. Put on your garments. That's what we're all being put through now, to make our garments white, ready for the wedding ceremony. Now let's jump our arrows over to here. We're in the set apart place now. We come to the golden lampstand. Let's follow this line over here. Golden lampstand. Yahusha is pure light, and his energy flows through his bride to anoint her and set her apart from the world. Isn't that beautiful? His energy. I don't like using the word energy too much because people think you're a hippie or, you know, some cuckoo spiritual nut. But it is, it's light. It actually is energy, not the force. It's not like the force. But it's not pagan either. It's not what they go on with. But it is energy. It's light. It's purity. Yahusha is pure light, and his energy flows through his bride to anoint her and set her apart from the world, so that we become more and more set apart. Then we have the table of showbread next over there. Yahusha is the bread of life, and his living words, his instructions, sustain his bride like food, giving her life, protection, and deliverance. So he's the bread of life. And then we have the table of incense, altar of incense down here, right before the curtain. Prayer is communication, and through her belief, the bride can enter boldly into Yahusha's presence. Prayer is communication, and through her belief, the bride can enter boldly into Yahusha's presence. So we no longer have a veil between us and Yahusha. And of course, number 7 is the ark, Yahusha's presence within. The essence and power of Yahusha within his bride to strengthen her, giving her a love for his instructions and power to overcome the world. The pattern up the top here, the pattern for the tabernacle can be seen in the life of Yahusha and also his bride. This is the pattern. Remember, this is a shadow, a pattern. None of them knew this. I don't even think Musha would have known this when he was being given the blueprint. This was the blueprint for what it looks like in the higher dimension, Yahusha's dimension, but also is a pattern for what Yahusha was going to do when he came to this earth. And now it's a pattern for what we go through, the approach that we take to come before Yahusha, to be delivered. So, the tabernacle is a pattern of the garden in Eden and represents our bodies where Yahusha wants to live and become one with us. The tabernacle and our bodies is like the Garden of Eden, a place where Yahusha wants to live and become one with us. The tabernacle was covered with skin, had a skeletal frame, and moved around. They moved it all around the wilderness. The almond tree, the rod that budded, was the tree of life, his living words. So we haven't come to that part of the story yet where Aaron's rod budded, but the almond tree, the rod that budded, Aaron's rod, was the tree of life, Yahusha's living words, the tree of life that was protected by the swords, flaming swords and the cherubim. In this tabernacle, the ark, the tree of life, which was the protected by the cherubim, the curtains with the cherubim on them. The tabernacle is now our bodies, where Yahusha puts his ruach in. Can you understand? I mean, we know all this instinctively and but can you understand by going through all this, it means so much more to us to know what sacrifices had to be made. Does it make sense to you now why you're going through what you're going through? Look at what they had to go through. Cutting up animals and smearing blood and fire and dragging carcasses out into the wilderness and dumping stuff. And these priests were not doing, highly sophisticated jobs here. They're basically glorified butchers. The guy down at the butcher shop. Look what they were doing. Look how the laborious work they had to go to just to get his presence into the camp, and it was worth it. So do you understand why you are going through what you're going through? So that the common darkness is burnt out of you? So that you will become vessels of light? We will become vessels of light. Can you understand why it's not an easy path? Because look at you. Look at you. Look how you behave. Is it easy? How would you like to be Yahusha? Trying to get you from being a whore to a bride. Would you take on that job? Oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, that's easy. No way. Can you see why you're going through so much turmoil and pain? You understand now the walk? But we go through it because we want him. Just like he wants us, we want him, and we want to overcome to please him because we can see the end result. More and more light in our vessel, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, all the more and more of a wonderful feeling within us and a love for our Creator. And in the end, we get to go to the wedding feast, guys. Do you believe that you are a wise or a foolish virgin? We're all the maidens, we're all the virgins, because we're all the bride. If you've been immersed in the name of Yahusha, there's only one name for your deliverance. If you've been immersed in the name of Yahusha, you are officially a virgin, a maiden, washed clean. Are you a wise one or a foolish one? Because the foolish ones aren't interested in behaving the right way. The foolish ones aren't interested in getting closer to their Creator. They're just collecting morsels of head knowledge and behaving very shadowy religious ways. The bride is going from greener pasture to greener pasture, riding these waves of living waters. And it's an absolute ball. And some days, no, it's not a ball, because you realise you're looking at yourself and your behaviour. The scripture, the Torah, the word is like a mirror, and it shows us how filthy we are. But do we take it as such a negative, horrible, look at me, I'll never make it? Or do we look at it and go, oh gee, didn't realise that. Damn, put that off and keep going. Receive the burning, receive the chastising and the flogging. Receive it. No chastisement seems pleasurable at the time. But do you want him? Because if you want him, you want burning. If you want him, you want the fire, because he is light and we are darkness. The only way for us to be joined through the blood is for there to be purging. Because when light comes into darkness, darkness disappears. Isn't that what we want? I'll just go through this quickly. This was just a fun little picture to show how the tabernacle is now our body. The skin was the outside, the covering of the goat's skin. It's the skin, just like we've got skin, the tabernacle had skin. The bones were the beams, the structures of the tabernacle. The organs were the set apart place. Table of showbread, stomach, gold, lampstand, mind, organ, incense, smelling. The heart, of course, is our most set apart place. And our heart, the ark was protected by cherubim. Wings, like lungs, your heart's protected by the lungs. And the ark contained the written instructions of Yahushua's covenant. That's just a quick, just a symbolistic type thing, looking at how the tabernacle is like our bodies, earthly bodies. That's the layers of esteem in the living dwelling place. Our bodies are the fulfillment of the earthly tabernacle pattern. Remember, no shadows are ever abolished, but they are fulfilled and life is breathed into them. So why would you want to go back to an earthly tabernacle? Why would you even want to suggest such a stupid, ridiculous concept of going back to a tabernacle or a temple? When we are the ultimate, our bodies are the fulfillment. Why would you want to go back to the shadow when you've got the fulfillment? You know, oh, no thanks, Yahushua. I don't want you living in my heart 24/7. I'd rather go back to sacrificing bulls and sheep and cows in a dwelling place out in the wilderness. You see how religion is just stupid? They've got no idea. They're wandering around like blind people, bumping into each other. Our bodies are the fulfillment of the earthly tabernacle pattern. And with Yahushua's presence within our hearts, we allow his behavior of loving kindness to shine out of us. It's the only way. So, have a look at this picture here. You can see where all the people at Yisrael, 3 million people were camped. And you can study it some more in your own time if you like. I'll just, Leah and Zilpah, her kids were there. Bilhah and Zilpah's kids are on this side. Raquel's children were over here. You can see that because we had Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. Remember, Yusuf was cancelled out and his sons took on tribes. And then Leah's children were over here. Gigantic tent city of about 3 million people, including women, children, elderly, and foreigners. It's fascinating. And you've got the Levitical priesthood camped around out here in the middle, and then of course the tabernacle in the middle. So we've been looking at all these close-up pictures of the tabernacle, but when you zoom out, this is what it looked like. And remember, it would have looked like this because Yahushua doesn't leave anything up to the imagination. Camp around the tabernacle in this way. Christians try to jump on the fact that they camped in the shape of a cross. No, sorry, they weren't. I mean, you could find a cross in there if you want. You could find a toilet seat in there if you want, but that's not the point. The thing I want to end on is this. I did think of making a whole episode out of it, but I just thought, no, not right now. We'll do this in greater detail when we get to Ezekiel. But for now, I just thought this was interesting. These four tribes, Yehuda, Ephraim, Dan, and Reuben. These were the four major tribes in each direction. So if you look up on the picture, Yehuda was the biggest tribe on this side. Ephraim was the biggest tribe over here, the most dominant tribe. Dan was the most dominant and biggest tribe on this side of the camp. And Reuben was the most dominant, biggest side on this side of the camp as well. So those four tribes have been highlighted by Yahushua. Yehuda was given the symbol, tribal symbol of the ox, or is it a bull? I'm sure we'll come to it. Ephraim was a tiger or a lion there. Dan was an eagle, and Reuben was a man. So We can go into this another time, much more significance. For now, I just want to finish on this. These are the four, the fascinating thing about this is, these are the four most dominant tribes in Israel with the most numbers. And Yehuda was placed in the east, for he was to rule. Remember, the direction of east was always of the most importance. Right? Anything important is in the east. So he was to rule with the firstborn birthright according to his father Yaakov. So Yehuda was given the firstborn birthright. Remember, Yaakov said, the scepter shall not leave the tribe of Yehuda. The older brothers were sort of pushed aside because of their behaviour, and Yehuda was given the firstborn rights according to his father Yaakov. Ephraim in the west was given the firstborn blessings of wealth and fruitfulness from his father, Ephraim being the tribe of Yusuf, remember? Remember Joseph was cancelled out and his two sons were put in his place? Remember that episode we did with all the different, was there 11 tribes, 13 tribes, 14 tribes? No. Once it all worked, it panned itself out, there were 12 tribes. The animals that symbolize these four dominant tribes are also the same. Here we go. These are the same creatures that Ezekiel saw in his vision of the higher dimensional throne. Remember, this is a blueprint. A blueprint. This tabernacle in the wilderness was a blueprint of what the higher dimension looks like. And camped around this tabernacle, there are lots of tribes, but four dominant tribes. Look up here on the end, remember? One here, one here, one here, and one here. All camped around are these four tribal animals. And we think, oh, we're getting a bit spooky and astrological here, aren't we, Mark? No, we're not, because these four dominant animals here are also the same four animals that Ezekiel saw in his vision of the higher dimensional throne. What does that mean for us, though? Remember, Moshe was told to make the tabernacle after the pattern he had been shown on the mountain by Yahushua, because it was an earthly or physical shadow of his dwelling place in the higher realm. One is a shadow of the other. The garden in Eden was also an earthly shadow of his dwelling place too. And these four creatures are what Ezekiel and John saw in their visions of Yahushua's throne room. So Ezekiel, when he had the visions, we haven't got to him yet, but he saw these four creatures. And John in the book of Revelation saw these four creatures as well in their visions when they were talking about Yahushua's throne room. And remember, the tabernacle is a blueprint of Yahushua's throne room. Creatures with eyes all over and the face of a human, lion, ox, and eagle on them, all in the same direction as these tribes were placed. So the same direction that the tribes were placed and their tribal animal was the exact same place that they were placed. So creatures with eyes all over and the face of a human, lion, ox, and eagle on them, all in the same direction as these tribes were placed around the tabernacle in the wilderness. And wherever the spirit of Yahushua went, so did these dimensional creatures who praised him day and night. Just like wherever the tabernacle went, Yisrael followed also. So these living creatures in Ezekiel and John's visions are directly associated with the four dominant tribes of Israel, who are guarded by these creatures of Yahushua. And there's a picture of them there, creatures worshipping at Yahushua's throne. Remember, there were these creatures with eyes all over them. They had the head of an eagle, an ox, a man, and a lion. Well, these are the tribal animals. So can you see how important Israel is to Yahushua? He's even named them after his creatures that are around his throne. So it's amazing where we're going with all this, guys. I mean, just pulling all the little fine threads together to understand there's nothing left to the imagination with Yahushua. Nothing at all. My brains have been blown out all the time going through all this. I mean, Yahushua's put so much time and effort into drawing us and washing our minds clean so that we can not just go, oh yeah, we're washed by the blood of the Lamb, but when you read and you glean all these things out here, all the shadows, the people just want to stop there and fill their minds with shadows and then don't do anything about it. The whole point of knowing the shadows was to teach us how to behave. Because it's not about anything outward in the 21st century. The food, the clothes, anything, the trumpets, not about the shadows in the 21st century, it's about the behaviour. If Yahushua came in the 21st century today and wrote these scriptures for us and spoke these scriptures to us, it would all be about behaviour. It wouldn't be anything agricultural. It wouldn't be anything about dress code apart from, dress modestly. It wouldn't be about what brands. It wouldn't be about the food. He wouldn't even care if you blew shofars or not. He wouldn't care if you're wearing tzitzites or not. He wouldn't care about any of those shadow-dwelling things. He would care about whether you are behaving like a bride or like a common whore. Is it common or is it bridal? Bridal behaviour or common whorish behaviour? How's your behaviour been this week? Like a common, loud, crass, uncouth whore? Treating people horribly? Or are you training to become the bride that Yahushua wants? Wouldn't you love to know, to put your head on the pillow at night and know that you are becoming? Each day you are overcoming more and more and more of the darkness, of the evil of the world that wants to control this fleshly vessel we're in. And Yahushua wants to possess this earthly vessel more and more and more. So I'm going to leave you with that today, guys. It's just phenomenal. I mean, the whole thing about the 4 animals didn't ring too much about behaviour, but only to say that we are being protected and watched. The messengers are watching our behaviour, recording our behaviour on a daily basis. Look at the things that were written, scrolls and scrolls about Moshe's life, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. What if they are writing scrolls about your life? Because they are. What are they writing about you and me? When we come before the great white throne judgment and they haul out these big books of everything we've said and done, how are you going to fare? Is the verdict going to be guilty, annihilation, or washed clean in the blood of the Lamb? Or will you not even be there because you were at the wedding feast 1,000 years before that? Got a golden ticket. You won't even have to be at the great throne judgment. You'll be, serving the drinks and serving at the great white throne judgment because you're already in. You were at the wedding feast, and if you're at the wedding feast, you must have passed the test. You must have passed the overcoming to Yahushua's standard, where he could just finish you off with his presence in the twinkling of an eye. That's enough rambling from me, guys. Love you. Stay strong.